This is SWBC Mortgage's Cowboys Crosstalk. Check this out. Broadcasting live from Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star in Frisco. Brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. And by SWBC Mortgage. Customized solutions to help you meet your personal and business goals. Visit SWBC.com. Now, your host, Shannon Gross.
No, it is not Shannon Gross here on Cowboys Crosstalk. Here from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star in Frisco. Filling in for the great Shannon Gross, it's Kyle Yeomans. And I'm glad to be alongside a pair of former Dallas Cowboys and, of course, one of our favorite 105.3 The Fan on-air host, Mr. Mike Bassick, from probably the coolest-looking backdrop I've ever seen on a Zoom call ever, Mike, just by the way.
I'm in the pantry. That's my quiet place.
My
wife gave me the pantry. So.
Whatever you've got to do to get it done, that's all I care about. And the fact that there's food in the background and a lot of cereal back there makes me even happier. Because, hey, whatever you've got to do. But I've also got Nate Newton sitting to my left, Mr. Nate Newton, 6-time Pro Bowler, and then Barry Church, a part of the crew this week.
0-time Pro Bowler, but, hey, all good.
But you're a special guest, and that's really all that matters. And so, we've got some firepower here over the next hour here on Cowboys Crosstalk. And normally, I would ask Barry, as the special guest of the show, what he's been up to lately. But we kind of know what you've been up to lately because you're up here in the Dallas area. You're very involved with DallasCowboys.com. And then we've got Nate Newton, who's also on a couple of the shows in the podcast. And we're all three on pregame. So Mike is really the guy that's kind of out of the loop here, at least out of the three of us, which is unfortunate because here's a little behind the curtain for everybody listening is I've listened to Mike for a long time on 105.3 The Fan. This is the first time I've actually gotten to meet you. And so I'm honored to be sitting next to you and on your station getting to talk to Mr. Mike Bassick. But how have you been, Mike? What's going on?
I've been doing good, man. Just watching a lot of football lately and chilling, talking a lot of Cowboys, getting ready for a little bit of NBA basketball here in 3 weeks to start up. So that's what I've been doing.
There you go. And talking of the NBA, a little breaking news that just broke a couple moments ago. Russell Westbrook on his way to Washington. And I know this is a Cowboys in an NFL show, I promise. We're only going to talk Cowboys in NFL. But Russell Westbrook traded for John Wall and a first-round pick from the Rockets to the Wizards. And that's kind of interesting for those listening on 105.3 The Fan. But you mentioned football, Mike, and I'll let you start us off. The Cowboys' upcoming opponent and the Baltimore Ravens are finally through their Week 12, finally got their game in the books a couple moments ago. They fell to the Pittsburgh Steelers 19-14 on the road at Heinz Field. Did you get a chance to watch any of that game? And if you did, what'd you think?
I was busy taking care of kids after school, and I'm going to be honest, because I love watching Lamar Jackson. I know he hasn't had a repeat of last year. I felt like it was somewhat of a foregone conclusion with what the Ravens had to run out there this afternoon, so it wasn't for me must-watch TV. If it would have been Lamar Jackson and a fully healthy Baltimore Ravens team, I probably would have made sure I made time for that.
And trust me, you didn't necessarily miss anything from a football fan standpoint. It was really kind of an ugly game. Nate, did you get a chance to watch it?
I listened to it. I was driving around. I listened to it on Sirius Radio, and just like Lamar Jackson, I hate to do it to you, Bassey. Just like Lamar Jackson, the other guy, RG3, none of them can throw.
Nah.
And if you can't throw, you can't win.
Can't throw, you can't win. RG3 went 7 of 12 for 33 yards and an interception. That's a 28.5 quarterback rating. Rather, in the loss to Pittsburgh. So, Barry, did you get a chance to watch? I know you had a podcast this afternoon.
Yeah, we had a podcast. I kind of had it in the background a little bit. Then my kid got back from school, and I was kind of playing with him. But I kind of had it in the back, kind of like elevator music in the background. And I got a chance to check a little bit of it. And, yeah, you're right, man. RG3, man,
I'm going to tell you something, man.
Didn't look good.
And I'll say this right here. And I tried to tell guys a couple of years ago when they got all excited about Lamar Jackson, which I applaud his athletic ability. But I know it's Coach Greg Roman, his offensive coordinator, and I'm just about 2 seconds away from texting him brother, where's the passing game? Where's the growth?
Yeah.
What are you doing to this kid? There's no growth, fellas. You're the same guy. Mm-hmm. You know who he reminds me of? And he's a MVP. It's a guy played for the Milwaukee Bucks. That's a great athlete, but in 2 years I've seen no growth. You grow your game, man, whether it's through your coaching or whether you have to do it yourself.
And talking about Lamar Jackson at that point, and whenever it comes to Lamar, we'll get into that matchup because the Cowboys might be facing Lamar Jackson next Tuesday.
Yeah, video man.
He may be a part of that game plan, but right now with COVID-19 and everything that's going on there, it's kind of tough to tell who's actually going to be available. But here's the thing. All of you guys have been professional athletes. That's where I'm out on this in terms of the four of us here. You've all been professional athletes at different times, and the Cowboys are going to have 12 days between playing Washington and then finally taking on Baltimore next Tuesday. It's almost a mini bye week. If anything, it is a bye week if you really want to look at the days in between games. But as former athletes yourselves, and Mike, we'll start with you on this one, but did you like time off, or did you not necessarily like the days in between and the fact that you had to kind of you had to stay ready even though you did have the rest from a body's perspective?
You know, my sport obviously is so different than football because there's 162 games in 181 days. So it's you're used to playing every day. So having a off day is great. But as a starting pitcher, you do have somewhat of a football player's routine. You know, the day after you pitch is your hard workout day, long toss day. Your next day is your bullpen day to work on things that went well or didn't go well. And then you have a light bullpen day with the weight workout. Then you kind of have a day to yourself. Don't do too much because the next day you're going to pitch. So a starting pitcher has a little bit of a football schedule where you're going to play in 30 to 35 of the 162 games. So I always like staying on the routine. I always felt like if I had an extra day or 2 extra days, I always felt like, do I need to do more? Do I need to back off? So I was always trying, especially as a young guy, trying to figure that out. As you got older, you kind of appreciated a little bit of extra time. But as a young guy, I'm like, I want to pitch every 5th day. I don't want an extra day.
Is that kind of the same for you guys from a football perspective?
Nah. This virus has wrecked it. In Basic and Church, y'all know we are structured guys. Mm-hmm. Athletes are structured guys. And once you have too many days off, it ain't you're trying to stay in rhythm. And you lose all the rhythm. And it's too bad that this pandemic got guys where they can't go on the field. If I'm a coach, I'm telling Mr. Jones, look, I need the field. I got to keep my guys in rhythm. I had no training camp, no mini camps. I got to keep my guys in rhythm. And it's going to show up because now this team, the Ravens played. So now they got a rhythm. We don't have a rhythm.
No rhythm at all.
That's true. And, well, for me, I was a little bit different. It depended on what type of or what point in time in my career I was at. Like when I was a young dude, I was always eager to get out there, especially being undrafted. I was like, man, I got to get out there. We don't need no bye week. I got to show these coaches I belong. So every play, every practice rep, I was taking all a part of it. But as I got older, like my 7th, 8th year, 9th year in the league, I kind of relished. I loved those off days. I mean, my feet was hurting. I get out of bed, hitting the ground. I'm like, man, where did this injury come from? But you know, that bye week definitely came in tall. But for Nate's point, I mean, he's exactly right. When you get in that rhythm, as far as winning games and going back to back and trying to stretch that out there, you got to have that rhythm to pretty much complete it. But to me, as an older guy, I love those bye weeks.
Well, the good news and the bad news of that is that the Cowboys didn't really have a rhythm on the field. I mean,
it's true.
If you really wanted to talk about it, I mean, you fell 41-16 to the Washington football team, so there was a little bit of a rhythm there. But also, I mean, it's no jokes here, but off the field, I mean, this is going to take some time to talk about the grieving of Marcus Paul, the strength and conditioning coordinator. Of course, thoughts and prayers with his family, but this is a time where I think Mike McCarthy has already talked about it ad nauseum of saying that this is nice to have a couple extra days to deal with, and it's something that the team is going to relish. But Mike, do you think that the Cowboys are going to benefit from this time off, even though it did come at a weird time where you've only had a total of 5 practices now in 25 days?
I think it could because I was fortunate enough not to, and I call Marcus Paul a family member. I think you guys know this. When you're part of a team, whether it's a coach or a player, I 13 years in pro ball, I never had a teammate or a coach pass away during the season. Now, everybody at some point usually will have to deal with whether it's an aunt, an uncle, mother, father, like somebody in your family is going to be sick during a week or during a season, and you are dealing with that individually. But to me, what's really tough with this one is the whole Dallas Cowboys family is dealing with this in the middle of a season. And Nate, you talked about how tough this season is already. So I don't know how it's going to go, because this is something really tough that, I mean, fortunate for me, I didn't have to go through something like this. So I don't have a point of reference of what it's like to lose a family member on the team during a season.
And plus, this guy was the strength and conditioning guy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So he touched every player because he had to have their schedule, how they like to do it, what time they came in, and they had a personal touch. He led the stretches. He did this. A lot of times he led them on the field. A lot of times he had to focus guys. He knew their personal lives. So I understand what you're saying, but you know what makes it easier, Church, is if you can just get on the field.
Mm-hmm.
If you can, when you can just get on the field, whether it's a personal, family member, a friend, or somebody you love, if you can just get back to doing what you do, it makes it much easier.
Yeah, and Nate, and I can only go by personal experience because, I was a part of that team. I believe it was 2012 or 2013 when Jerry Brown had passed in that car accident. And, I mean, it hurt all of us. I mean, it was 2 days before the game even started, and, he passed in a car accident. It was hard. It was emotional. It was hard to get on the plane and play. A lot of people were thinking, man, we shouldn't even go up to Cincinnati and play that game. But I think what we did and what brought us all together, and Nate, you were right about this, is just getting back on the field. I mean, just being apart from your teammates, it kind of let you dwell in your thoughts, and all you wanted to do was get back on the field and get back to what your teammates and what you love to do. So, I mean, it's tough. It's tough overall. It's extremely emotional, but I think you're right. When it comes to camaraderie, you got to get back with your teammates.
You got to pour into something, and I think that's kind of where the Cowboys are at right now. Is the easiest way to grieve is to pour into what you love, and of course, what Marcus Paul loved.
Oh yeah,
yes.
And at the same time, I mean, he wants them to go back out there and give it their all and show that kind of love on the field as brothers. But I mean, they were back on the practice field today, preparing for a game that's still a total of 6 days away. So they've got a little bit of time. They're going to take tomorrow off for the memorial service of Marcus Paul, and then they'll be back to practice on Friday. But we're going to take our first break here on Cowboys Crosstalk. When we come back, does Baltimore still scare you the same way they did at the beginning of the season? That's the question we'll ask. And will Lamar Jackson be available so that way Mike Bassick's happy and can put this on his calendar as something to watch in terms of Lamar
Jackson? Get
Jackson
out of the pantry.
And good football and get out of the pantry. You're listening to Cowboys Crosstalk on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
SWBC Mortgage's Cowboys Crosstalk.
Yeah, check this out.
Broadcasting live from Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star in Frisco.
At SWBC, customized solutions for individuals and businesses are just a click away. Visit SWBC.com to learn more and start your next adventure. Welcome back here to Cowboys Crosstalk from the Star in Frisco, and also Mike Bassick's Pantry at the same time. We're both world-class studios in their different ways. That's probably the best way to say it, Mike. But we got Mike Bassick representing 105.3 The Fan, Barry Church, our special guest, Nate Newton representing DallasCowboys.com, and I'm Kyle Yomas, just trying to drive the bus here tonight in for Shannon Gross. And guys, we mentioned the 19-14 final score. The Pittsburgh Steelers now 11-0. On the season, they take down the Baltimore Ravens in what was an ugly, ugly football game on a Wednesday afternoon up in Pittsburgh. But now the Cowboys know kind of what they've got in store for Week 13 as the Cowboys and the Ravens meet up in Baltimore coming up on Tuesday. But this is a Ravens team that last year only lost 2 games in the regular season. They went into the playoffs on a massive win streak. But right now, they're kind of reeling a little bit. You talk about a team that's seen a bit of regression. And Nate, I know we're going to get to Lamar Jackson here in a minute, but Mike, whenever you look at this Ravens team overall, and I know you guys have kind of already been talking about it on 105.3 The Fan and with your show on KNC Masterpiece, but is this the same Ravens defense that we anticipated whenever the schedule came around?
No, because before the season started, I thought it was going to be Kansas City versus Baltimore to go to the Super Bowl in the AFC. And I thought there were other good teams, but I just thought, man, the way Lamar Jackson played, Patrick Mahomes and that team, I just felt like, man, those two teams are going to clash probably to go to the Super Bowl. And right now, 6-5, they pretty much need to run the table. Maybe they can lose one more game to make the playoffs. And I know there's that extra spot this year. But if you're Baltimore right now, I know you can only play one at a time. But as a fan, you look at their schedule, and they have a pretty easy schedule the rest of the way. But they kind of need to win out because of what Miami's doing and what Indy's doing. And Cleveland's 8-3. Those are your 3 wild cards right now, 8-3, 7-4, 7-4. They're 6-5. So they got to make up some ground. And, you know, we'll see what happens there. I'm interested really with Nate Newton and Lamar Jackson because I haven't seen the progression. I'd love to know more about what Nate Newton feels watching Lamar Jackson play.
You know, when I see super athletes, Bassick, oh man, nobody gets pumped like me.
It's true. I've seen it on game day. It's fantastic. He gets really excited
at the most important position in the NFL. And I learned this a long time ago because we used to like to run that ball with Emmitt Smith. But I used to hear Dan Marino say this: if we're going to win the big games, Dan Marino's got to be throwing the ball. And I looked around the league, and I'm saying to myself, okay, Dan is a hog. Dan is selfish. That's how I was looking at it at the time. But as I got into the league, played football, in the biggest of games, Troy showed up big. Mm-hmm. He had to make precision throws at the right time, and he may not have had 400 yards, but he had a good passer rating and some nice throws. And when I look at young kids coming into the league, look how Dak came into the league. As long as Dak had a half a weapon, you see him grow every year. Mm-hmm. Every year he got better and better. So now we see where we can't even function at all on offense without Dak. But where has the progression been with Lamar? He's a video star now. He was a video star back then. He's a video star when he walked on the field. Only in the run game. Mm-hmm. You can rush for 400 yards a game, and you're only going to score 3 touchdowns in the playoffs. You're going to have to throw for the other 2.
Yeah.
You're going to have to throw for the other 2. And this kid, all he got is a tight end and Andrews. Hollywood is all but left. The kid from Oklahoma, he's all but left. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's still on the team, but he's all but left. He's not. Why? Because they can't get him the ball. Is it because this kid can't read defenses? Can he not throw? Or is it the offensive coordinator not putting him in positions to succeed and to progress? I need to know.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think it's lack of weapons
No, sir.
So it's on him. It's on his ability to throw the ball.
And the offensive coordinator.
I mean, you've got Hollywood Brown, Devin Duvernay, James Prochet, Des Bryant for
and
all
Andrews,
those out
the
there.
big tight end.
Yeah, you got Mark Andrews. There's a ton of guys out there that are good receivers for Baltimore.
I hate great athletes from the point that you do what you do, but what happens when people catch on to you?
They got the tape on them.
And so now it's time, okay, if Andrews is not open, Hollywood is not even in the game mentally now. Yeah. He's dropping balls. This kid from Oklahoma don't drop balls. But now he's like, oh, I may get the ball, I may not get the ball, I'm not in the game plan. They going to have to sell out these last few weeks throwing the ball. Go overboard. And it may cost you this season, fine. But you're going to have to progress this kid. Dude, he's going to be another Mike Vick. Watch the kid that's with the Cardinals.
Kyler Murray.
He's progressing, man. And we laughed at his coach.
Yeah.
But he's progressing.
I agree with you on that note, Nate. I mean, you got to go out at least throwing the ball. At least see what you have in Lamar Jackson in the future, because you never know. I mean, if he can't throw the ball and all he is a one-trick pony type quarterback, you need to know that for your future.
Yes.
So you can't just hit your wagon and go hit him with a second contract when all he is a one-trick pony. Now, overall, I would say, yeah, he has to develop a little bit more. But I don't know about the weapons over there. I mean, I know you guys said Hollywood Brown, Mark Andrews. I'll give you guys Mark Andrews. He's a legit tight end out there. But I don't know if I see Hollywood Brown as being, that prototype, that guy over there.
He's had kind of a drop problem this year.
He has a little bit, yeah. And then Duvernay, he's got speed. He's coming along, but I don't know. Willie Snead, I don't know.
Let me say this: Duvernay, they cheated themselves. The Dallas Cowboys cheated themselves because they should have had Duvernay here. This dude's legit. Texas did not use this kid. This kid could have been drafted much higher if Texas would have knew what they was doing.
That's true.
Duvernay is nice.
He got speed now.
I'm telling you, he can catch the ball. Hollywood is like any other diva receiver. If you don't get him involved, he's going to start losing confidence in himself, even though he know it ain't him. It ain't him. It's the quarterback and it's the offensive coordinator. They're one and the same guys. You've heard stuff leaking out of Ravenville saying that the quarterback is unhappy. Yeah. He don't like the play calls. They're not throwing enough. I don't do numbers a lot. Mm-hmm. I do wins. Yeah. But do the numbers on this. The numbers on this. I'm 8 in the box.
So, okay, with this being said, and I know you guys are kind of going after Lamar here, and he was not available today. The offense struggled. Right. He was not on the field, of course, in COVID protocol at the moment. But let me ask you this question. Lamar Jackson, how much is that one-trick pony going to have success against this Cowboys defense? Because that's my worry, is because he might be a one-trick pony, but he's going to have some success against the Cowboys, especially, Mike, whenever this is a defense that struggled against mobile quarterbacks in the past.
We had Jerry Jones on Friday after the game was over, and he talked about, we kind of asked him about the fake punt on 4th and 10, kind of the risk reward seemed way off there. Like if you did get it, which was a small percentage, now you just have first down at the 35-yard line, and it's only a 4-point game at the time. And his answer was, guys, we were getting gashed vertically with the run, and which made it sound like to me the way he answered that was, if we punted to him, and they got the ball back, we weren't going to stop them from getting first downs running the ball. So we might not get the ball back, so why not take a big risk and see if we can get a first down? Mm-hmm. So what you're talking about is with Lamar Jackson and his running ability, with the Cowboys really missing their first 4 defensive tackles now because they signed 2 veteran guys, one released, one gets hurt before the season, then their 2 young guys are hurt. So they're working on 4th and 5th guys at the defensive tackle position. Is a team like Baltimore, we've seen it, like Baker Mayfield to me is a below-average quarterback. They're 8-3, but they got Chubb, they got Hunt, and they have a good defense. So they don't really have to rely on Baker to throw the ball, which I think, like Nate said, that will get exposed in the playoffs when he can't throw the ball accurately to win a playoff game. But against the Cowboys, we've seen teams that don't throw the ball well or struggle with it, still they can run the ball where the Cowboys really struggle throughout a game to stop it.
Mm-hmm. You know what? And see, just like you called a reverse and you willing to take that chance, I had 8 guys standing within 5 yards of the defensive line, the offensive line, saying, "Okay,
what you gonna do?
What you gonna do?"
Yeah,
that's what I would do. If you're willing to just a team is down by 4 points, and you willing to say, "Hey, man, we know sooner or later we're gonna get gashed. Let's just try something just out of this world."
Yeah.
That's what that play was. Out of this world. I couldn't get I tried to call all my ex-teammates and everybody and say, "Hey, man, what did you see?" And they just said, "Why?"
Why not lead the offense? If you're going to go, why not just lead the offense on the field?
I got the word why. I went to sleep that night. My wife woke me up and said, "Baby, you got to quit saying why. I don't know why you're doing that." Okay? Why?
20-16 too. I mean, we talk about 41-16, but at the time, that's early in the fourth quarter, 20-16.
Thank you. It's a 4-point game.
4-point
I
game.
mean, that's man. I'm asking why. I mean,
Don't do that. Don't do that. Why? Don't do that. Put me in the pantry.
It's the safe space. It's the safe space.
No.
Barry, whenever you're looking at it from a defensive standpoint, before we take our next break, but whenever you're slowing down, and Mike mentioned the vertical run game, and that's what Washington does well, is that vertical run game. Baltimore, they do that well too. I mean, they've got J.K. Dobbins and Mark Ingram, but a lot of the time, Lamar Jackson wants the edge.
Yes, he does.
A lot of the time, he wants the edge. What's easier to stop from a defender's standpoint, the vertical run or getting to the outside?
Well, it's easier to stop going to the outside because he's not gaining that much yards as he's going lateral. So if you keep pushing him to the edge, your defensive linemen stay in their gaps. You just keep pushing him to the edge. You can run him down eventually for a 3 yard gain. If you just push him out of bounds, he's going to run out of field eventually. But that vertical, if he's going downhill. And you ain't getting nobody to touch him before he gets to that second level. As a safety, that is the worst thing you want to see, especially if you're that middle of the field safety. If you're that deep third safety, you get your little back pedal going, and then you just see that line part like the Red Seas, and this big dude coming through there. That's the worst thing you can imagine. That's besides lining up against Randy Moss or something, because it's just you and him in the open field, and he's either going to embarrass you or you're going to make a heck of a play. And it's just one of the worst things ever. So I would say, if you don't have a great D-line in that middle, it's harder to stop that vertical than pushing that guy to the sideline.
Let me say this, man. Let me say this right here.
Nate's just got a virtual image in his head of somebody getting shook.
Hey, you did never have to worry. If Darren Woodson came after the game and had a little red line across his face or a little blood trickling down, that means that the vertical run was on that day.
You're not lying. You're not lying. And that's when you start looking at your D-line like, come on, guys. Come on now.
I need a little help here.
Come on now.
What kind of player were you? Were you one to make the tackle, or were you the one that was like, uh-oh?
I'm like, uh-oh. I ain't going to lie to you. I'm a bigger safety, but I'm like, oh, here we go. Especially if it happened like 2 or 3 times in the first half. I'm like, man, come on, guys. Come on. My shoulders are hurting, man. Let's go, man.
Oh, man. It's going to be a tough matchup for that Cowboys defense. And J.K. Dobbins and Mark Ingram should be available for that game for Baltimore, as they're already off the COVID list. They did not play today, but they should be available next Tuesday.
Fresh legs.
And then it's a big question mark on Lamar Jackson. It's right up on that border. It just depends on positive testing and how he gets out of the COVID protocol. But when we come back, where are we sitting after that Washington loss in terms of, are we shutting it down, or we keep pushing for this division? Are we Team Tank, or are we going for this thing in terms of the NFC East?
We know what the 105 guys
I want to know.
We know what the 105 guys are doing.
I want to know what's going on in y'all's heads. You're listening to Cowboys Crosstalk on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
SWBC Mortgage's Cowboys Crosstalk.
Yeah, check this out.
Broadcasting live from Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star in Frisco.
Welcome back into Cowboys Crosstalk from the Star in Frisco and Mike Bassick's now famous pantry, along with Mike Bassick, Nate Newton, Barry Church. I'm Kyle Yeomans, and well, Mike, we're going to put you on the spot here because Nate has decided that we're going to put you on the spot here as the lone wolf in terms of 105.3, the fan representation here.
Yes.
Everybody else is on DallasCowboys.com. So, with that being said, Team Tank, of course, the Cowboys sitting at 3-8 and a schedule coming up that's still favorable for the Cowboys should they want to make a run at the division. They're one game out of first place in the NFC East, and they're also one game out of the number 3 overall pick, and the team that's in front of them is coming up on the schedule in the next couple weeks. So, with that being said, there's definitely a lot of Cowboys fans on both sides of the fence. First, I want to hear what side you're on, and then we're going to get into it probably because Nate is definitely not on Team Tank, if you are on Team Tank.
I'm on Team Tank.
Okay.
I wouldn't be as a player. Believe me, I played on some crappy baseball teams. And, yeah, we tried our best and still lost and ended up with a top pick in the draft. And the baseball draft's way different than the football draft.
Yeah.
But for me, growing up, Nate, without the Cowboys going 3-13, there's no Troy Aikman. If there's no Troy Aikman, there's no dynasty. And so now – I get it. We kind of have Dak Prescott. What I say kind of is because he's not under contract, but we assume he's going to be either franchise tagged or under contract. But to me, getting a very high pick and maybe getting one of those difference makers, what you hope to get with like a number 2, 3, 4, 5 pick is you hope to get a future Hall of Famer. And so if you get lucky and the right guy's there and he ends up being whoever it is, DeMarcus Ware. I know he wasn't picked 3 or 4, but if you can find that guy to really change, to me, the defense, then maybe that can, in the future, down the road, the next year or two, really change the way that I see the Cowboys maybe competing for to get back to the NFC Championship game. The last time they were there, I'm pretty sure Nate was on the team.
Were you on the team?
Yes, I was.
So.
Until your great analogy of 3-13 produced Troy. But also, I think 10-6 produced Patrick Mahomes with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Ooh,
all right. True. And I think that a 7-9 team produced Wilson in the 4th round. So I'm not saying that I'm not giving up that easy. I'm not giving up that easy. But I do believe, Bassick, to your way of TANK, I do believe that we can win this division with 6 games and still get a top 5 pick.
How does that work?
Where did that come from?
Nate just chose all of the above. He didn't choose A or B. He went C.
Oh,
I don't even know.
Look at if you're. This is how I see it. If you're not going to get the 1 or 2 pick, you ain't winning nowhere in this draft. It ain't but 2 guys I want in this draft.
Who are those 2 guys?
That's the kid at Clemson.
Trevor
That's
Lawrence.
the kid at Ohio State.
Justin Fields.
And then I hear y'all talk about another kid out there that's a quarterback. I don't want him.
BYU,
I want those
Brian
2
Wilson.
guys.
But you do want a quarterback as your first pick.
Yeah. That's the only way I would want it. Those 2 guys. Now, the offensive lineman everybody talking about, man, forget that. As much as I love offensive line, if we pull up an offensive lineman in the third and as a third player pick, somebody need to be. Never mind. I ain't gonna even say it. I ain't gonna even say it. For real. Offensive line with the third player, for real.
Yeah. All right, what if I tell you this? What if you can get around 15, 16, you can get the corner from Alabama?
I'm down with it.
He's not going to fall that far.
He ain't going to fall
I'm
that
down.
far.
I'm
Patrick
down with
Surtain,
it.
he's not going to fall that far.
Bassett, tell me what you're thinking now. Because Barry, I'm not skipping over it. But tell me what you're thinking, TANK.
So here's the tough thing, though, about this. Because Brian Broaddus and Jeff Kavanaugh and Dane Brugler, guys that I talked to, they know this draft like up and down.
Yes, sir.
And they said they've been studying it quite a bit because the Cowboys just aren't having a great season. Whoever wins this division gets the 19th pick.
Okay.
And so whoever loses it, obviously 4 of the 10 worst teams are in this division. Just one of them does get to go to the playoffs. They said, unfortunately, after you get past those 2 quarterbacks, picks about 3 through 20 don't look any different, unfortunately, this year. There's no Chase Young this
Wrong.
year. They said this is the unfortunate thing about this. There's no Champ Bailey or Charles Woodson or, like, unfortunately, in this year that if the Cowboys do have the 3rd, 4th, or 5th pick, there's maybe not much difference on your board between the 3rd guy and the 10th guy or the 7th guy and the 14th guy. So this is honestly one of those years, if you're looking for a defensive difference maker at the top of the draft, there's not a can't-miss guy that you would look at, like a Myles Garrett or something like that.
See, and I would probably argue that Micah Parsons should be in that conversation as a can't-miss guy, the linebacker out of Penn State. But even he opted out, and it's kind of tough to say whether or not he's going to hit or miss because he hasn't played football in a year. His tape is from 2019, so it's kind of tough to go about. And I think that's another thing with this draft is how valuable are these picks right now? Because a lot of these top players have either already opted out or they've opted out of half of a season or things of the sort in terms of well, you got something on that?
No, I'm looking at Church because Church is looking at 1,000-mile stare. I got the 1,000-mile stare. The only people that know what's going on is Team Tank. Team Tank, help us.
Let me throw this because let me ask you this. Let's just say the Cowboys lose out. I don't think they will. I think they'll win 1 or 2 more games. But let's just say that they lose out, which means they have the 3rd pick in the draft as of now because Jacksonville and the Jets, I can't predict they're going to win another game.
I don't think so either.
At pick number 3, Trevor Lawrence, who I'm going to tell you, I think he's a future Hall of Famer. Watching him, I'm in love with Trevor Lawrence. I get Dak is a very good quarterback. I'm not dogging Dak right now. Trevor Lawrence says, I don't want to play for the Jets and I don't want to play for the Jaguars. I'm not going there. I want to play for the Dallas Cowboys. So now all you got to do is trade from 3 to 1, which you don't have to give up a whole lot. Now the Jets have to play with you.
Yep.
Would you guys somewhat move on from Dak if Trevor Lawrence says, I want to play for the Dallas Cowboys and the Jets are willing to dance with you?
On the field, yes.
Wow.
Off the field, I just couldn't do it.
Even with the contract from Dak Prescott.
Yeah, just because he brings so much off the field that his leadership alone is amazing. I mean, I don't think we would have Anonymous coming out saying all this other stuff back in the day. I don't think we have any of that if Dak's there. He's that leader. He's that bona fide leader of that locker room. So I would ride with Dak. But if we're talking about strictly on the field play, I go with Lawrence, man. I would go with Lawrence. I'd go with Lawrence at that 3 if we were able to get him.
You heard what I said, and I ain't backing off of it. If you ain't got the number 1 pick or the number 2 pick, just pick anybody.
Well, that's what Mike's saying. He's saying he wants to get the number 1 pick.
What I just said?
Would you go with Lawrence or Prescott?
I'm going with Lawrence. I just said that.
Okay.
I just said if it ain't those 2 quarterbacks, because even with Dak next year, if we don't find those players on defense. I mean, we're going to have to find players on defense that can come in and be difference makers. And if we can't find them, Dak is going to be doing the same 40 points that this other kid going to be doing, just younger. I'm being honest. Sooner or later, and I've been praying for this for 6 years now, Church, that we have to have a defense. And this year here, averaging 36 points a game, people finally believe, wow.
We need a defense.
We got to get a defense.
Got to find one. Now, whenever it comes to that specific question, Mike, and Sean and RJ actually asked me that this morning, and I said I would rather trade down than trade up.
Come on, man.
I'm more interested in trading down than trading up. For more picks, because whenever you're talking about trading up or trading up means you're voting for salary cap room, right?
Right.
You're voting to not pay Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
You're going to take Trevor Lawrence, and you don't take up the piece of the pie that is going to be Dak Prescott's contract. So whenever you're trading up, you're opting to have more salary cap room. When you're trading down, you're talking about more draft capital.
Okay.
And whenever you're talking about draft capital, you get more pieces, more darts for the dartboard, as Jeff Kavanaugh likes to say, for the defensive side of the football. So I'm looking at the defense saying, I want more draft capital. I want more young guys on this roster rather than one young guy that's going to play really well.
But Barry,
Yeah, I'm listening.
did Team Tank just tell us it ain't no difference between 3 and 20?
He did just
It
say
ain't
that.
no
He
difference.
did.
why I
So we're
wanna
gonna have
trade
a
down.
bunch of we're gonna have a bunch of high second round picks at. Come on, man.
A bunch of special
No,
teams.
I don't want to trade out of the first round.
No,
I'm not trading out of the first.
You asked Broadus. That's who I learned this from. Maybe the 1st through the 15th are truly first-round picks. From maybe the 14th to the end of the second round, all you got is second-round picks.
Are they just development players?
They just developing players. Bruh, I'm going to tell you something. If the Cowboys do not have the number 1 or the number 2 pick, I'm agreeing with Kyle. We need to move down and get as many as we can.
Hey, there we go.
You got it. You got to.
So, once again, Nate Newton chooses all of the above, Mike, because he's saying if we don't do what you're doing, then I'm going to do what Kyle's doing.
You dancing all around this one, big dog.
No, but you know what? No, on the serious tip, in church, you know I'm all about winning. And I say this right here with all my heart. We have to, if we have 7 picks or 8 picks, and it has to be all defense.
Without a doubt.
If you're not getting the number 1 or number 2 pick, and I'm being honest, that's the only way I would not have Dak here. If you give me the number 1 or the number 2 pick, that's the only way. And you know what? I'm not going to play with Dak. I'm not going to play. I'm going to be like, you know what, Dak? Love you, but I'm moving forward. I'm not going to play with him. You don't do him like that.
No, that would be unfair for him. Yeah.
But once I get my number 1 pick, it's over, dog. I'm going all defense. Because you don't have to change nothing on the offense. Tell me what's wrong with it. You have to change nothing on the offense. Just be a better play caller.
I like it. I like it. And I think there's more of this discussion to be had because there's a lot about expectations. I mean, the expectations coming into 2020 were the 40-burger offense and your defense was going to see improvement. You got the 40-burger offense. You didn't necessarily see the improvement on the defensive side of the football. And we're going to talk about that coming back. Who needs to see improvement for the needle to start to turn and start to improve whenever it comes to your expectations for the 2021 season, especially with the 5 games remaining on the 2020 season. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Cowboys Crosstalk on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
to SWBC Mortgage's Cowboys Crosstalk.
Yeah, check this out.
Broadcasting live from Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star in Frisco.
Mortgage customized solutions to help you meet your personal and business goals. Visit SWBC.com. Kyle Yeomans, Nate Newton, Barry Church, and the great Mike Bassick from 105.3 The Fan here on Cowboys Crosstalk. Final segment here, and had some heated debate whenever it comes to trading up, trading down, staying put. It doesn't matter. Nate Newton's doing all of it whenever April's draft comes around, and he's also pointing out the oatmeal. For those of you going to break, Nate was pointing out Mike's oatmeal in the back of his pantry. That's what was being said as I was trying to outro this segment.
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Mike, is that generic brand? Is it the name brand
that's
stuff?
like the, store
That ain't
brand.
Quaker.
Yeah, it's whatever. Kroger, Tom Thumb, Albertsons, I know, sponsor the Dallas Cowboys.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah.
Hey, how about that? I like that. We are on the Dallas Cowboys radio network, but Mike, whenever it comes to the final 5 games of the season, and you're talking about upcoming against Baltimore, Cincinnati's on the schedule, Philly, San Francisco, who do you need to play better? Either a unit or a specific player. Who do you need to play better for your expectations for the next season, 2021, to start to improve?
Boy, that's a good question, because you know what my answer would be, but unfortunately he's hurt, would be Trayvon Diggs.
Yes.
Just because the secondary scares the death out of me going forward, and he's hurt. So hopefully he can get in a game or two if he gets healthy enough at the end of the year. But besides that, our young defensive tackles are gone. I guess it would make me feel good if Randy Gregory had a really good, strong last 5 games, that you could go into next year and look at Gregory and Tank Lawrence and go, I think we have something at least that we can build around defensively. And so that would be what it is, because I am with Nate. Offensively, there's not much of an issue. It's just about health.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Can the offensive line get healthy enough next year, and can Dak come back healthy to have the offense be a premium offense? But to me, I'm just scared to death of the secondary, and the tough thing is I don't know to name anybody in the secondary, because most likely they're all going to be gone.
It's true, because there's a lot of contracts up in that regard. Barry, you feel the same way?
Yeah, I'm definitely feeling that talk. I mean, we definitely need some help in the secondary, our D tackles as well. For me, I'm going to go with the unit, and I'm going to go with the decision makers. I'm going to say that, look, the OC, the DC, the big man, Big Mike, they got to step it up a little bit, because some of these decisions that have been made these past couple games, they've been head scratchers. I mean, look, we talked about the fake punt, how they did a double reverse on 4th and 10.
Why?
Exactly. Why? We didn't get into this, but the 4th and inches. I mean, you got a $90 million running back there who, if he falls forward, he's gonna get the inch. I mean,
If
it was
he can
less
make
than
it to the ground.
This is true.
Yeah.
It was less than a pointer finger distance away from the first down, and we decided to throw a comeback. It's just, some of these decisions are just head scratchers, and so for me overall, I gotta look at that. I gotta look at those guys as a unit and say, look, man, we gotta step it up. We gotta be better. Have faith in your players out there to get their job done without doing all this trickery and all this other stuff, and just get the job done and get the dub. So for me, I gotta go with this coaching staff. They gotta step it up a little bit.
It's a slight difference between creativity and just being smart sometimes. And I'm not saying Coach McCarthy is not smart, but creativity, man, is not, run back 15 yards to get 25. That ain't creativity. That's chaos. But anyway, what I want to see is every young guy that has been drafted in the last 2 years for the Dallas Cowboys to touch the field. I want to know, before I go into next year's draft, what do I truly need? You will understand the defense better. You will understand the offense better by playing. This is a play now league. It's kind of like the NBA. You can't get better sitting on the pine. Mm-hmm. I want to see these young guys play. I want to see them perform. I want to know. I don't want to know whether the kid from Utah, the outside linebacker. I do not want to know next year can he play. We let Connor McGovern sit on the bench for how many weeks? Mm-hmm. He started one game, then we put him back on the bench, only to find out that he could really help this team. Come on now. If this year and next year have to be those years where you play these young guys. Because if you don't, your fan base is going to say, well, hold on now. We done been down this road.
Yeah.
And it ain't changed in the last 10 years. Now 11, now 12. We draft guys and don't play them in the first, second, and third round. How do you do that in today's NFL?
Mike, do you think that's on the coaching staff in terms of the lack of maybe progression that they've seen? I mean, like we talked about Lamar Jackson earlier, you want to see the same kind of projection from young coaches. And Kellen Moore, you can maybe say that he's grown a little bit, but there are other times when he's kind of had some lapses, and maybe personnel is a part of that.
Well, I can give him a major excuse this year because there wasn't a real training camp. And just as a person that gets to go out to Oxnard and watch the young guys, they're making a lot of mistakes early in training camp, and they're trying to learn as fast as they can, and you didn't really get that this year. They didn't get maybe the practice game, so I'm giving them an excuse of maybe they just felt as a coaching staff at times uncomfortable because they didn't get the reps in that they wanted in practice. And that also, Nate, the other thing too is they did put Diggs out there, the second-round pick.
Okay.
He got hurt. They did have Biotic out there when he could play. He got hurt. They did have Gallimore, the third-round pick, out there after they released on Terry Poe and kind of and then he got hurt.
8 weeks. Go ahead on.
So the second, third, fourth-round pick all got hurt. And then Robinson, the kid from Tulsa, I haven't seen him much. I know he's getting to play a little bit now.
And I would say great if we were 6-5. But have we won the third game yet?
Yeah.
Okay, we're 3 and whatever.
Yeah.
So I need to see, once again, every guy, and what I need more importantly than anybody, and I didn't want to say this because everybody know how I feel about this guy, I need to see Zeke do it. I need to see Zeke
I'm with you on that one now.
And everybody, I get rolled to death on my podcast every day about Zeke. I need to see him do it.
I'm with you on that because I'm one of the people that's sitting there saying, we need to get him the touches. He needs to get more than 10 touches in one game. But when you're out there, fumbling 5 times and you're a part of multiple turnovers, it's kind of hard to get you to rock, man.
Yeah.
It's tough.
I need to see it, man.
Who's one guy that you want to see, Mike?
Boy, I guess I'll go a little bit opposite than Zeke, and I'm not saying he's maybe a starter. I think he's a great changeup. Is Tony Pollard, when he has hit the field, has hit some home runs. And I don't believe Zeke can hit home runs anymore. What I believe is Zeke gets you first downs. And he can't, to me, he can't make secondary guys miss, or he can't run through them and keep his balance. What he does is, what he's great is he bullies them into 2 to 4 extra yards after contact. But Tony Pollard can just outrun you, or he can just put a little move on you, and then he's by you. So I just wonder if we're looking for a little bit of home run. I'm not saying to sit Zeke at all. What I'm saying is maybe it should be more of a 65-35 type of a deal, like percentage-wise.
Yeah, I think the best way to look at that is the Minnesota game, where Zeke kind of wore down that front seven and continued just pounding Minnesota and having the Vikings kind of on the back of their heels. And then Tony Pollard and the changeup came, and there was the home run ball that, Mike, you just talked about. And I think that's something that the Cowboys certainly could utilize. That's going to do it here for us here on Cowboys Crosstalk. Mike, thanks so much for joining us and hopping on with us.
You don't want to do another 3 hours?
I can do another 3 hours. I think the nosebleed seats would have something to talk about that. But for Nate Newton, for Barry Church, I'm Kyle Yeoman saying thank you to everyone involved with the show today. This has been Dallas Cowboys Crosstalk on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!